Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Hendo's Hot Topics. Hope you're having a good week. Hope you're looking after yourself, and hope you're enjoying yourself. Now, today with Aaron Gilmore. How's it going, my friend?
Good,
Yeah.
thank you, mate. It's good to be here.
Yeah,
you know?
lovely to have you here.
in
Thank
the
you
in
for
the
coming.
hot topics space.
Hendo's Hot Topics HQ.
Yeah, there it is.
Now,
There
what
it is.
I love to ask is how are you doing in general?
Good,
Yep.
thank you. Yeah, what an interesting question. How you doing in general? Because that's always that fun one. Like, which part do you share?
Yes,
You
yes,
know,
exactly, mate. Yeah,
and it's that interesting thing that so many of us do. It's like, I'm good, or not bad. Not bad. I always think not bad is the one where you go, But yeah, life's good. Being dad, being a dancer, being a person that's trying to, share some good stuff and,
Yep.
and have some good convos.
Now, I want to get straight into it. Get straight into it.
Perfect.
So,
Brilliant.
a
feel like I should
champion,
load.
a champion ballroom dancer and Latin American dancer since the age of 10.
Yeah.
How's that been?
Oh, that is quite the journey. There's quite the journey. I'm now, how old am I? 42, 43? No, I'm 45.
Still young, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Jeez, that's not good. I forget. Born in 78. So yeah, good. So I started dance earlier than that. So I actually first started with a bit of Irish dancing.
Oh, yep.
A wee bit of a nod to the heritage. And growing up though as a dancer in New Zealand, in the age I am, it was an interesting journey. One that I'm stoked that I've taken.
Yep.
But boy, it started off curly.
I guess it's played out now, hasn't it?
Yeah. That's a good way of saying it. It has played out because it's when I grew up, dance was such an odd thing.
Yeah.
And then especially to be a ballroom dancer and those kind of things, which was a little bit in a space where no one really knew what I did.
Yep.
They just knew dancer. You're a dancer. No one said, "Oh, you're a ballroom dancer."
Gotcha.
So and it was things change. Oh God, I remember a funny story for a second. It was I'd gone through high school and those kind of things, and I'd reached about fifth form, which is year something. Now I'm still on forms, and I'd had my picture in the paper with a dance partner.
Yep.
And one of my friends was like, "You dance with girls?" It's like, "Yeah." Like, what do you think I did? They're like, "Oh," it's like, "Yeah, a little bit different, maybe, perhaps from here," because you could see them kind of like, "You dance with someone." Like, what? And it was like their mind blew from these things. It was funny. Yeah.
Now, interesting fact there, we just said before is, back when you started dancing, especially in New Zealand, you're born a male, especially, be a rugby player, be a farmer, go be a tradie,
Yeah.
that kind of stereotype.
Hugely.
Especially in the 70s, well, early 80s, mid 80s, is how did you have any conflict or anything come your way?
Oh, massive.
Yeah.
Massive, yeah. I was odd.
Yep.
I was supposed to put it into context. I had a lovely catch up with a high school teacher a few years ago. And one of her first lines to me was like, "We had another one of you." I was like, "Huh?" Another one of you. And what she meant was a dancer. Because I went to an high school, I went to an all-boys Catholic high school called St. Bede's. Ultimately a really good school. But I was the only dancer in the entire school. So straight away I was like, whoa, what's going on?
The black sheep in the room.
Yeah. And so much so, actually when I first started high school, I told no one. Essentially because I didn't want to get beaten up.
Yeah.
Because I imagine that, and when I started high school, a third former, you're a turd. Bless third form, turd. And at the same school, there was second and third year seventh formers.
Right, yep.
Like third year seventh, you got bearded men. You're like, what?
Yeah.
You're at this school too? What? You're like, how? And I'd stayed for like basketball and rugby. And for me going into that thing, and I think I'd wanted to keep it secret because going through school as well, I felt different.
Right.
And there'd been other things in life that had very much disconnected me and made me feel different as well. But the thing that I enjoyed doing and loved and was a way that I expressed myself ultimately was seen as unusual and odd.
Yep.
And so, as you do, if you stay with the things you love, you start to protect them. And so, one of my protections was ultimately to start off with was to not tell anyone. That didn't last very long though.
Do you recall the moment where you begin to feel connected rather than disconnected?
Connected as far as like to my community, peers, or
Being comfortable to go, yeah, I'm a dancer, so what? Not having to worry about what others had to say or their input.
Yeah, fifth form.
Yep.
fifth form. What's that? Year 11.
Yep. Okay.
Year 11.
Yep.
And it was because of that change of also how people started to see me. And it was that moment that I got to have, I think because in the moment, there was a confusing moment that they had. Once again, it was that paper article where they go like, huh? Because until then, you know, it was being a dancer, it was like, straight away was like, are you gay?
Yeah, 100%.
That was the first thing. Are you gay?
Yeah.
And gay's neither here nor there. There's nothing, no issues there. It was the reflection of I didn't want to be seen as a certain way, because there's nothing wrong with anyone's sexuality. But for myself, since I felt and I enjoyed being a fella that danced with girls and going to move, but then again, it was like it was seen as a less than.
Yeah.
And you know, I got a bit of grief again. It was why I didn't share. And then in fifth form, having that moment where they were like, oh, and you could see that confusion, and it was a lovely gift that they gave, that little moment of confusion. You're like, oh, hang on a tick. Okay.
Yeah.
And then after a while, it's like, I can do something you can't.
Yeah.
It was kind of cool.
Well, even that moment though, from an outsider point of view, you know, you are doing something that is back in that time different. You are the black sheep, and was there ever a moment of worry? Another reason why you didn't want to, you know, put out there that what you did was dancing was because you were being portrayed as someone you weren't. Yeah. There was a few things for me that kind of led to it, because other stuff was going on around, and I'm sure we'll get to all this stuff too. Being singled out, being separated, because you know you want to fit in. Exactly.
You know, you want to fit in. And when you're doing an activity, you know, an activity that takes up a big part of your life, and then ultimately an activity that started to get attention.
Yep.
You start like, oh man, I want to fit in, but this thing that I'm good at and I enjoy is going, you know, so is creating this attention and confusion. And you know, and Kiwi culture sometimes can be rough of that tall poppy as well. So, you know, even, you know, the gun sports star still gets a little bit like, oh, you know, this is there. And, but, you know, this activity that I was doing, made me stand out in a way that I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I was ready for that. And being honest, I didn't have the tools.
Yep.
Didn't have the tools. And perhaps in some ways I was lucky that the activity I didn't include people at school.
Right, got you.
Because I got a bit of separation. You know, outside of school, I got to do this thing that I got to be me.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, but at the same time, I still had this space that I could almost, the dose that others were exposed to it was kind of measured a little bit. You're like, oh, you get to know a bit about me. So I've still got a little bit of safety. You know this much. You know, you don't know how sparkly the lycra is, but it's, you know, there was those things.
But that's quite a nice way. Almost, you could almost look at it as if you're a mysterious person. You know, they're making all these assumptions because they don't know. You know, they don't know what the plot is. They don't know when the beat drop's going to come. They don't know, like you said, they don't know that part about you. So they're making all these assumptions to try and connect the dots.
Yeah.
But they don't actually know who Aaron is.
Absolutely.
And for you know, there'll be a lot of, you know, young adults, kids who, whatever they may be doing, they feel the odd one out. I think that's almost a beautiful way to look at it. Is stay mysterious.
Yeah.
You know, hold that flame and spark with you that makes you, that's your thing. Yeah. You know, to you as dancing, hold that spark with you and stay mysterious. Keep them assuming, and you know, actions speak louder than words.
Yeah. And you know, even in a team sport, I think, you know, because ultimately it comes down to, in many ways, and I think about it now, it's how do you express yourself? You know, we express ourselves in these different ways. You know, you might be a singer, a dancer. You know, it might be a tradie that really enjoys the quality of their work. But even in a team sport, yes, we're playing with others, but it's still how you enjoy what you do and what matters to you, and trying to find your place in the world and your place in a team and a place in activity is quite a curious thing to try and fit into.
100%.
It's just, you know, I suppose the gratitude I have for some things in life. You know, also like forums like this where you get to share, as there seems to be an opportunity to find and express yourself more, and for that to be something that's actually celebrated. It can go too far, you know, like, you know, how many followers and how many,
100%.
you know, it can, you know, that volume can absolutely go the other way. But we've got to a culture where almost uniqueness is celebrated a bit more. And again, uniqueness can go too far.
Yeah.
I have to be different for the sake of being different.
Yes.
Which is again a bit of a challenge and can be a loop for people to come back to. But it's we're in a slightly different time from perhaps the short shorts, rugby boots or gum boots kind of character. The foot rock flats,
Yes.
You might. I hope it's good. You're not too young.
The Billy T. James.
I'm almost too old. Yeah, exactly. Like that Billy T. James character, although is culturally significant to us, isn't a destination to always go to now.
Yes.
If you're not that, it's not seen as wrong.
Yes, 100%.
Whereas some of our culture before was a little bit, why aren't you? You're supposed to, hang on, stay in your lane. Yeah. Don't talk about your emotions. Don't do this. Don't move in a funny way there, dancer guy. Yeah. Settle down.
And then that is the negative side effect. I'm not sure what it's like in other countries, but especially our country is those parents who have been directed in that way, unfortunately that gets handed down to their children, and the whole circle of life kind of metaphor of being who others want you to be rather than being someone who you want to be continues.
Yes.
Exactly. Not showing your emotions, suck it up, don't be a pussy, man up.
Yeah.
Those kind of sayings.
Yes.
It leads a lot of individuals, male or females, to be someone who they don't want to be, just to fit in with others. And you see that so much. And then you have the new technology which comes in, which even makes it just as worse. Start comparing your life to what you see on your phone screen. Why don't I have it like them?
Yes.
Why are they always going overseas? Oh, they're on holiday again. Why can't I, Mum, why can't we afford to go on holiday? All these questions. Yeah. And then you just have this continuous spiral of downfall just mentally, and you end up being someone who you're truly not.
Exactly. And we're pack creatures. Yeah. We're community. It's how we develop this way. As much as we like to be that rogue or that, actually I'd live in the outback of nowhere and I'd be fine. You're like, would you? Yeah. Would you? I'd really like, man, that deer doesn't talk back. You know what I mean? Like, we all like to think about ourselves as being able to be this, this rogue, going it alone person, but we have this desire to be part of something. Yes. And as you grow up, I think, I'm a bit of a believer that humans were mimics. We're yes, we're from the animal kingdom, but we're almost this kind of other thing. We have this ability to copy and mimic and as you grow up, that'll make you turn yourself in circles. You're like, if I do this, will I be liked? And if I wear these clothes, but that ends up being how we move, how we operate, how we talk. We almost curl ourselves back on ourselves to try and find a place. Yep. And like you said, after a while, you don't actually start to recognize who you are. Or then you're going, it's almost that, if I do this, will you like me? What about now? Yep. What about now? And again, that's the unfortunate thing, is that puts us in such a vulnerable place that we're not grounded to our being. Yes, exactly. And that's a pretty significant person that is able to ground to themselves at any time. And I'm not sure if there's ever really a destination for that as it is, apart from, I feel kind of calm in this moment. But trying to connect to not only yourself, but also another things as well. That's tough. It's almost like this target keeps moving. And our desire to fit into that means, we can go some funny roller coasters.
Yes, and that's why I think the saying that I don't like to preach much is fake it till you make it.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Fake it till you make it. Yeah. Okay, yep, you fake your way to make it. But once you've made it, you've made it, where do you go from there? You faked your whole journey to reach this point of achievement. Yes. Where do you go now?
Yes, yeah.
And that's I wanted to relay that onto what we were saying, is the point of fitting in. You fake being someone you're not to fit in, and then what do you do? And then I feel that's why our country is one of the biggest youth suicide rates, is because of that matter. Yeah. We have all these kids struggling to fit in with their peers, because their peers alone are probably doing the same thing, but when they can't fit in, when they're even trying to be someone they're not, what else is there for them?
Yeah, and also trying to fit in when there's no target or goal in sight. Yeah. Because, as you get older, as we all do, sometimes things that affected us in negative ways growing up end up actually being a really powerful tool. Yes. Like the fake it till you make it. Because if you think of fake it till you make it as say, for example, we look at admiration or those kind of things, people you admire. And admiration for me used to be a little bit like, oh, I felt so disconnected and didn't want to be these things. So to me, it's like, I don't want to admire people. So I pushed away, because in some ways, admiration is looking at someone with the belief that you don't have that thing. You're like, oh, I wish I could have that. And then when you look at this, and then if you kind of season it with that fake it till you make it, you go, actually, I've got the ability to emulate some of those qualities that I like about that person. But when you have that chance to identify, actually, this is the kind of person I want to be. I don't want to be that person. I actually like that quality about that person. Just when you're younger, it comes with so much extra bells and whistles that don't matter. It might be a fashion thing. I want to be like that person because I've got shiny chains and shiny things and all those kind of stuff, which again, kind of, you get lost down some rabbit holes. But later on you go, actually, my ability to kind of fake it allowed me to evolve in these ways.
Yes.
Because you don't always want to throw away those things. Sometimes we get to a place and we go, oh, I don't like where I am. And it's like that saying, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And you go, well, actually, out of those 10 things you don't like, 7, 4, and 2 are super useful and have made you achieve some kind of cool things. So how about we keep 7, 4, and 2 and have a look at the others?
Yes, exactly.
And then see which ones actually serve you rather than take away from you.
Yes, it's like a beautiful smoothie. You can add so many ingredients to try from to make this smoothie.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful analogy what you use there.
Yeah, I said the other day, I instantly regret this hemp powder.
I'm not a fan of the hemp powder as well.
I got a little bit carried away but it was trying to be healthy.
Yeah.
That's what you do. And I was like, I instantly regret this decision. But again, I could have chucked away all the ingredients or just realised hemp's not for me.
Exactly.
Who does this?
Well, you wouldn't have known either unless you tried it.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
While I was also trying to be healthy.
Now, a father yourself, a really interesting question I have is raising children in our society now, with the society that you grew up in, is there any difference or any worries that you have now looking over your children that may come to the surface?
Oh, God. Is everything a word? I think as a dad, and as we do, first of all, the fact that we're having this conversation, it means we're some people that are trying to think and grow ourselves and other kind of stuff. And so ultimately, in some ways, you want to do better than what your parents did, and that's a moving target. We might have had amazing parents. We might have had you were rough, but being a dad is, I look at the influences that we had, and there's so many. Man, and this can be a massive conversation by itself, but what influences our children? Because you've got the friend groups, you've got society, you've got our behaviors, what are we modeling? How am I being? What kind of person? What am I expecting, or just kind of, assuming that my kids would get? And I look at it from a few ways. One, I ultimately want my children to be happy, expressive, enthusiastic children. And what I mean by enthusiastic is that there's a willingness to explore what they want to do. That there's things that go, actually, I want to. Curious.
Yes.
Curiosity is a word I literally have tattooed on myself. Curious to as that reminder to that there's things out there. But in the current situations we have with things like social media and different stuff, there's a different value system that we're kind of playing by. And because of that value, sorry, to qualify a little bit more, not only is there a different value system, there's also less escape from that value system. Because you think, say someone had a tough day at school or a tough day, 3 p.m, bell goes, you go home. And so that exposure to that thing, or that influence, that thing, went away for a while. Yeah. You actually got a bit of defrag time. Now, we can argue whether that defrag time was good because you might have been alone, or you know what I mean? But you had that chance to suspend the stress, the influence. And whereas nowadays, that suspension of influence, of energy, of data, of things coming back and forwards is less. And so as a dad, I started to go like, what could I put in place that would actually mean that I could manage and have some influence on this? And some of that was, and because my kids are on a bit now, my son is second year of university, and my daughter is last year of high school. So I'm like, crikey, how'd that happen? So they're basically going, shush, shush. But part of it was the ability to talk and to discuss and to listen to their feelings, to ask their thoughts, to give their perspectives, and whatever tactic I had to do to invoke that, which randomly when they were little, one of the tools I used to use, I'd put a puppet on my hand, because I'd get home from school and I'd be like, how's your day? Good. Yeah, good. I'm like, oh, I'm not getting anything. And one day I chuck on this puppet, I'm like, hello, and you're like, oh, Mr. Crocodile, and they'd start to go like, and then Tabitha did this. I'm like going, what? You can't see this is my hand, eh? But they'd tell me all these things. And it just made me think about fun ways of having conversations. Equally, when was it time to shut up as a dad, which, as you can hear, I'm not good at. But then to look at, okay, social media, not letting the gizmo do the babysitting. Yep. Which is so easy because it's so attractive for so many reasons. And then also, okay, what are you being exposed to? Yeah. But then also having the conversation without going, what? Yeah. You've done an activity that, or had a thought that I disagree with. No, you have to think my way. I'm not giving them that space to develop. Yeah. So, God, it's a massive topic, being a parent. And also being interested as a parent, is a thing you want to be.
Well, I just love the concept though, because as a child, you have your parents, and you think your parents have done it before, and not till you get older, and you realize actually this is their first rodeo as well. Yeah. This is their first time being parents as well.
Yes, that is a good one. Unless you're down the order.
Yeah.
In which case, come on, man, you had that time there.
Yeah.
You're right, and you are, and it's that tough thing to realize that someone's doing their best.
Yes.
Especially as a parent, because I look at my kids, and I'm quite honest. It's like, look, I'm really, really honest with my kids. And so I sometimes look at them and kind of go, look, there's going to be things when you get older that you're going to go like, oh, Dad did this. And I often say, it's like I just hope that list isn't too big, and please don't punish me too much for it. But, there's things that you're going to outgrow and want to do different from me. Cool. That's how it should be. But as, often we look back at our parents, go, oh, they did this, this, and this. And I have that can be another topic if we like. Yeah. But it's, they are, like you say, that's their first rodeo as well.
Yep. Now, what I loved about when I was looking over your history and your background is something that stood out for me. And that was when you said advocate for change.
Advocate for change.
And I love that. And I would absolutely love to touch base on the meaning and why that's important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's support.
Okay.
It's support. An advocate for change is not only is it support, it's someone that's on your side.
Yep.
That's so you can give someone support. Like I can hold something for you. Yeah. Cool. But after a while, you're like, are you going to take it?
Yeah. Yeah. Got you.
And there is absolutely strength in someone taking something back. But when I look at the word advocate, as you're advocating for someone, is that you're, and sometimes the advocate needs to speak up.
Yep.
And be the leader in the situation. And sometimes the someone being an advocate needs to lift someone else up so they can do it themselves. Because we like to look at things like being a leader and that kind of stuff, and people being good managers or bosses, and I want to be a role model, and those are admirable, beautiful things which I think people should be. But I see someone being an advocate is that you're there to offer whatever you need to offer for that person, and sometimes that actually just needs to be I just need to be a listener for a time being.
Yeah.
And change, an advocate for change is that you can change. Sometimes there's the beauty in the word advocate. Change, because you can actually suggest change to someone. You're like, I could change. Because sometimes we think we can't.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be like this forever. And I think we all often think that. And sometimes we want something to be different, but we expect it to stay the same. So if you can advocate for change and hold that space, or sometimes lead that space, or sometimes push that space, that can be a good thing.
I love that.
Thanks,
And
man, thanks.
that's all someone needs sometimes. It's just someone to listen. Someone to listen can be that make or break moment for someone.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely beautiful, and it's
Yeah.
just as simple as that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you're not alone.
Exactly. And what I love to preach as well is you could be friends with someone for your childhood, your whole childhood. You're going through your young adulthood. You're going through issues, and you go, oh, I don't know how to talk to them about it.
Yeah.
Little do you know that you talking to them,
Yeah.
not one, they could be going through the exact same thing, but two, you talking to them could actually realize I'm not alone.
Yeah.
This person, my friend, who I thought wasn't going through the same issues or wouldn't care about what I'm going through, is actually dealing with the same thing.
Yeah, totally agree. There's an interesting thing called the bystander effect. I'm not sure if you've heard it, which is a fascinating concept. And it's that idea of what they've found is there's been some quite horrific things, like crimes and things happen where there was actually a lot of people witnessing it.
Yep.
And the bystander effect essentially kind of goes, oh, any minute someone's going to do something about it. Any minute someone's going to do something about this. But after a while, like, no one's doing something about this. And the same kind of goes for feelings as we often think, we're alone in a feeling and a thought and these different things, or any moment, maybe someone will say something, and this kind of perpetuated stillness that creates, but not a good stillness, because stillness can be good. And, and to get to to loop it back to your topic, is that when all of a sudden you actually go, I can be the one that steps forwards, purely actually because at the first instance, because it's actually good for me, it's my truth.
Yep.
It's like that little wee pressure cooker. It's like something's got to give at some stage. And sadly, sometimes it's not the thing you want to give, whether it be a mood or an energy or a feeling about yourself. But releasing some of that steam, you'll be amazed. Yeah, I agree with you. You'll be amazed how many people are actually sharing that feeling that we believe we're alone in.
100%. And the bystander effect is one that a lot of people look over. So this morning when I went to go speak to the primary school students, I spoke for about...
And good on you for doing that, mate.
Thank you, mate. I appreciate that. First 5 minutes, I asked, okay, now, what are some stresses that you may be having leading up to high school? I had 2 young boys who put their hand up and confidently told me their worries. Perfect. Thank you for sharing your answer. Halfway through, I said, ask questions. The next 5 years is for you to ask questions.
Yeah, nice.
All it takes is for one person to ask a question. Be that one person to ask the question, because others will be able to ask it. Talked for a little bit longer. Near the end, I said, okay, who's confident now to ask any more questions? The shy little boy in the corner goes, actually, I have a question. And you just saw him pick himself up.
Yeah.
And it's amazing just having that confidence in yourself, that feeling of actually, I'm going to do this for myself, can give you. And I just saw his face light up, and I went, thank you. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm trying to say, is you asking that question, one, not only going to better yourself, but two, you're going to give confidence to all your peers around you who may be having the bystander effect. Should I do something? Actually, he's done it now, I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an interesting, like it's that old saying, children should be seen and not heard.
Yes.
What a dumb saying. We say, we want to find you. Hi, come here. Yeah, which was probably, a tired parent or a tired teacher. And I understand being worn out. But when, there's an interesting thing I like to think is that so many times that the things that affect us the most happen at a time when we had the least amount of tools to deal with it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then from that time, we then assume or judge ourselves as lacking. Now, as a youngster, you start to, you grow up and you kind of, like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And, and then the adult looks back and go, why didn't I? It's like, you didn't know. You didn't have the tools. And that's that challenge, is if you can teach, which I love that the fact you went to the school, because essentially, for want of a better description, is you made questioning cool. How good's that? Where so many things are being pushed around, whether it be outfits or things to do or a TikTok dance, you can make questioning cool. Yep. And whether it be creative questioning or insightful or, curiosity, that it's okay to question, and then from an offshoot that it's okay to talk. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a seed to start lots of different places.
Right, yeah.
But when, as a kid, culturally, when you grow up with, you to be seen and not heard, because then you start to make the assumption, hang on, I'm a bit of a burden then. And then if you plant that seed in someone that you're a burden or you're wrong or, your presence, your energy is annoying to someone, where does that go? you know, that's either at yourself or at another. You know what I mean? Like that's the fertilizer for dysfunction. You know, for not being allowed to question. You know, that ultimately it's almost like it needs to be a curriculum thing.
Yes,
like
exactly.
no, we're going to learn how to question.
Yeah.
And we're going to, you know, and where do we go from here with that?
Well, I like the analogy of, you know, you could pass blame on someone, make someone feel like a burden. There's one finger pointing forward, but 3 pointing back.
Absolutely.
And that's, once you actually think about it, that is such a eye-opening moment. You go, wow, okay, why am I pushing this onto them?
Yeah.
You know, actually, I'm pushing onto them what I need to improve in myself.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you bring this burden that you've given them onto yourself, which then makes you improve yourself.
Absolutely.
Which just, like you said before, you know, trickles all these stepping stones to become someone better.
Absolutely. And often when we do point in that kind of thing, it's usually something that you don't want to recognize in yourself.
Yes.
Like, we obviously every single point can be argued. You know, no, it wasn't. That was that. But there's, you know, it is often those things that we react to the most is usually something we're still trying to come to terms with in ourselves.
Yep.
You know, it's like how, you know, like say we think the person that could be inconsiderate. It's like, or were they going for their goals? And because you're not doing the thing that you want to do, that person, you know, and it's you know, sometimes the tall poppy syndrome is a great veil to not do anything with. Do you know what I mean? It becomes like that prison to not even try, or an excuse to not even try. It's a curly, man, society's curly, eh?
Yeah, I've never got my head around the tall poppy syndrome. I mean, I've only been here for 19 years on the earth, but even that alone, you know, the 19 years, I've seen it enough. I have a friend who's doing really well with music, and in high school, you know, he would, when he was starting off his music, he'd release a new song, he'd get on the school email and send it to everyone. Yeah. And you'd always hear people who wouldn't even say hi to him, talking all this rubbish about him. And it's almost like, okay, why don't you give it a go? You know, you give it a go and see how you go. You know, do you have that confidence within yourself to try it? With the same confidence you have talking crap about him.
Yeah.
And it's you're exactly right. It's that question of, you know, are they they're chasing their dreams?
Yeah.
You know, I haven't been able to chase mine, so I'm going to pull them down.
Yeah. I think also what kind of fuels it in some ways is that sometimes we're in this place where we don't think there's enough to go around.
Yes.
You know, society. And we live in a society, you know, for example, you know, we need to get a job to pay for our right to be on this planet. So interesting concept if you think about it.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So there's something that we have to do in order to X.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like say love by, there's always this lovely thing by love by its very nature is unconditional. And unfortunately many times we don't do that, you know, whether it be parents that kind of missed the point or friends that made you feel like you had to fit in a certain way. So there's this idea that there's something I have to do in order to be this, you know, and we come from this place that there's not enough. I always love the saying. I had a good friend that I used to describe them as that there's someone that they understood there was enough sparkle to go around. And sometimes I think the tall poppy side of things is that like, but if you've got shine, there's no shine for me. Yes. And here's this guy singing, and geez, that's God, I'd quite like to be able to sing, but I'm going through puberty, so my voice is a bit rough. You know, and it's awkward at the best of times. But there's this thought that, if you're doing good, there's less good for me. Yeah. And shit, I've got to get that first. And so, hang on, if you're getting it all, there's part of me that goes, well, I don't want you to have it all. So maybe, you know, how do I figure out turn your volume down so I can get some sparkle? Whereas, you know, that's a false, you know, unfortunately it's a falsehood to see that, that, you know, there's not enough for you. And it's a shame that we culturally pass that on a little bit. And I think for me, you know, I try and even come past that as a parent. Yeah. You know, my kids, I tell them there's nothing you could do that would make me not love you. Zero. You know, I said there's things you could do that I'd be bummed. Like if you become a serial killer, I'd be super bummed. Be like, but I would not love you. There's nothing you could do. And when they were little, like, what if we did this? What if we did this? And you could
just
see
testing you.
Yeah. And after a while, you could see it as a smile because they could see it was like, whatever. They try and invent things like, no, it became a game. But what it did is it made them very, very secure that they were loved. Yeah. And sometimes, you know, through our childhood, that feeling is missing. You know, that feeling of actually I am accepted and loved purely for the fact I exist.
Yeah.
You know, that's an interesting one, because sometimes we're like, no, you got to achieve something in life. And I'm not taking away. I think we absolutely, you know, wanting to achieve something should be that we're encouraged to be the most you can be. Not if you don't do it, you're a nothing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If I don't do something, my life does not have value. You know, we're always looking, I've got to do something of value.
Yeah.
And I'm a believer that your life has value purely because you exist. And that's enough. And there's, it's an interesting thing that we come into the world and taught that there's something that we've got to do to have value. And that's a fine line to walk that can have some, you know, some quite big pitfalls for people.
And you see it a lot with, especially teenagers in high schools. You know, maybe they have parents who maybe achieved while they're at school, and they're pushing all this expectation on them. They don't get the ducks or the high achieving waters. The parents are ashamed in them.
Yeah.
You know, Mum, Dad, I tried so hard. I'm so sorry. We don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't get. We don't want to hear it.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do they do then? You know, even
You're
their
right.
even their parents aren't even proud of them that they even tried.
Yeah.
They studied and worked their bums off the whole year to even give it a go.
Which the lie is the parent feels like the failure.
Yes,
That's the actual truth.
Yep. Yeah.
This thing that is an extension of myself. Because if you're not careful, you think that your child is just an extra part of you.
Yeah.
It's like, actually your child is another completely different part of you.
Yeah.
That eventually will go, shush. yeah, because at one point they're going to be bigger.
I'll tuck you in.
Yeah, like, 'cause maybe even if they don't get taller, you better be in kick-ass shape till 100, because, and that's some of my, you know, I'm going to play fight you for a while, but this, it's almost a way of that parent not feeling it themselves. You know, I'm ashamed of you. It's like, don't want to feel your own failure, huh?
Yeah.
You know, and it's. You know, and pride can be a vicious thing. You know, I'm a big believer nothing's really negative or positive bar the meaning you give to it. You know, someone's definition of pride or prideful can be different from another. Pride or prideful might be a good thing. Pride or, well, you're like, oh God, they're so prideful. Do you know what I mean? It's almost the tone. But when that child's trying to seek that approval, trying to fit in, are you proud of me now, Dad? Are you proud of me now, Mum?
Yeah.
You know, that's a space, unfortunately, from that distance that parent created that you can't fill, because sadly ultimately what it is that you're looking for acceptance from another in order to give yourself value.
Yes.
And that's a real dangerous place to be in, because you're always giving the power for how you feel about yourself to another. Now when you're young, man, fair enough. Fair enough. And then, you know, when you realize that older, then, you know, come on, because some people, unfortunately, you know, don't have the opportunity or the connection or the information to turn that a different way. But, you know, the parent that's not noticing their kid needs a good forehead smack, you know, because it's in that space that a lot of other not nice stuff happens.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, because it's like, well, if I'm not getting it from you, do I need to, you know, do I amp it up, try harder, start to push people out of the way to get that? You know, do you notice me now?
Yeah, and then it comes back to what we were speaking about earlier. It's becoming someone you're not for the validation.
Yeah. Tom, it's a bit high.
No, you're
I've
good.
lost you.
No, you're
lost
good.
you. yeah.
And that is fine when you begin to try find validation from others rather than seeking validation within yourself. It's unfortunate, but that's when things start to go downhill. Yeah, and it's
because you can't fill it.
And you can't.
No, it's never
fillable.
fillable.
It becomes a habit trying to find validation from others. And that's, I always try to relate things like this to a thing that a lot of people would relate to is the social media. That's when the ding, or you got to like. Oh yes, got to like. Ding, you just got to follow. Oh my god, I got to follow. That becomes your validation.
Yeah.
And we all know 90% of social media is, you know, posting your best pictures, posting your nicest things, and when people like that side of you, okay, I found who I am, but it's not really you.
Yeah,
you know, it's
amazing how far you can go down a road that's not you.
Yes,
and you turn around, and you go like, I didn't even like that activity. Crikey, I didn't even want to do this job.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
exactly.
how many, and again, that parenting side of things is, you know, how many people are doing degrees to keep dad happy or mum happy, or to follow what you believe is a legacy. Now again, you know, all points can be argued. But, in some case, that is an authentic expression of someone. Actually, I do want to do that. That's admirable. I want to do that. But how many people have bought how many people have bought cars to impress another person?
Yeah.
Bought clothes to impress other people. How many people actually buy clothes because they're like, oh, I like this.
Yeah.
This actually makes me feel. If we all bought the clothes that we actually wanted, we'll probably look odd because we'd be going for nice feeling fabric. You're like, everything's furry.
It'll be the 80s every decade.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. It's this uncomfortable thing I'm wearing just to fit in is there. We do, and there is an element of society that we are trying to find a commonality, because commonality can be used to really push some positive stuff forwards. If that commonality is growth and evolving the individual and evolving the group, magic. That's wonderful. But most of it's trying to actually am I cool?
Yeah.
Is this the thing? And social media exaggerates. I look at it as, I think of it as from marketing and sales for a side of things. And why I say that is that I'm a bit of a believer that marketing especially is that you're moving the goalposts without the people realizing.
Yes.
Because, here's this thing that you want and you get it and you go, oh, beautiful. And while you do that, the marketer's going, actually, the thing you want's over here. And then you go, oh, because that buzz wears off. Even a teaspoon of sugar eventually wears off.
Yeah.
You're like,
love that.
And we know it. We know social media hits dopamine receptors, and which is, man, how full on's that it actually, sparks your biology. So that little addiction.
Yeah.
It's almost like a little, good. You're like, It's like, years ago I hurt my back and I got given a morphine drip, and it's the one time I've had morphine. I was like, I can see why people like this.
More.
Sweet deal. Crikey. But after a while, that buzz wore off. And that's what's happening to us societally sometimes. Social media can do that. We get the like. I shared something today and all of a sudden I saw a little heart came across. I didn't even know who the heart was from. Yeah. But it's like, I got sent love.
Yeah, but you're like, oh, I've been seen.
Yeah.
I've been seen.
For all I know, it could have been a scammer from Zimbabwe. No, Nigeria. Sorry, it always seems to be Nigeria. Yeah. It's like, could be a scammer.
Yeah.
But that little love heart from someone I didn't know, potentially, because I didn't even check. It was just like, oh, you're like, what am I doing? But it still gets me now, and I'm 40-something.
Now, while we're on the topic of trying to find meaning to your life, I'd love to talk about Dance for Life.
Cool, man. Thanks.
Now, share it. Share the background of it, what it's about.
Yeah. So Dance for Life for me, for so many reasons I did it. And so it's a small budding group where to start off with I'm sharing movement. Because there's looping it all in a big way. What matters to me is how people feel about themselves. That's really the big part. And I feel that way because I came through a long history of not feeling good about myself. And as you do when you feel certain ways, sometimes you get compelled to go certain paths because you kind of think, right, I can offer this for others. But I got to a place where I went, actually, no, I feel pretty authentically good about myself. And I've found ways of expressing myself. And I also had the chance to realize that some of the things that I suppose I could say, some of the activities that walked with me as I grew up are some of the things that kept me sane. And so I went, oh, hang on, if it can do this for me, maybe this can do this for extra people. And so I started to think about actually what does the effect of movement have on me, and how does that change my life, and what does the effect on perhaps if I look at others that haven't had movement, where does that lead? And so I wanted to be able to offer an opportunity for people to ultimately express themselves more, and if that could be through understanding how you move a little bit, understanding how your mind works, and some opportunities to think about things from other perspectives, or have a little meditation on something, or a little groove on something, or an understanding, oh, actually this is how my leg works better. And that, because, it's, part of Dance for Life is the dance side of things and sharing dance, and part of it's just movement. Because I kind of think, if we can move better and we can express ourselves more, then the thing that you're choosing to do with that is up to you. It might be, you might be a motocross rider. You might be just want to go and have a boogie with friends. You might just want to be able to, like, a friend ask you to go for a bike ride. But sometimes we don't do activities because we've felt sedentary, and then the mind's sedentary and the mood is sedentary, and, you know, that cycle downwards. So, yeah, so, you know, it kind of got born out of COVID times because, you know, not allowed to touch, not allowed to be with people. And so I thought, what could actually come to people instead of me having to go to them?
Love that.
And, you know, like this platform where you get to be able to go to people when you can't always be in the room with them. You can be in the room virtually. So, yeah, so I started that over the using Facebook as the platform. maybe that was a bit of a word, Facebook. But what I liked is that Facebook had all the tools. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? If I had to create an app myself, I would have gone, yeah, nah, that's not going to happen. So I could share things. So I just made a private group off my Facebook page, off my Aaron Gilmore Facebook page called Dance for Life, and start sharing workouts. So 3 times a week I do a just essentially movement. Sometimes it's a bit dance inspired. Sometimes it's much more workout inspired. Yeah. And then sharing a little bit of goodness as far as some health information, mind information, because mindset is another big one for me. You know, how you think about yourself, what you believe about yourself will ultimately drive your behavior. Mm-hmm. So if you can have a play with, you know, what that means to you, that can lead to some good place. And then also, man, movement feels good. You know, like it feels good to move, you know, and sometimes the Kiwi culture, it's changed now, thank God, you know, like again, growing up as a dancer, like what? Yeah. But ultimately what that did is kept people from expressing themselves. You know, like, oh, no, just stayed with my beer, you know, which was interesting. After a few drinks, people wanted to start to move. You're like, curious.
And then you see the ones who go, oh, and just stop.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I kind of thought, like, if you can do it in your own home, it gives you that permission to kind of go, okay, no one's looking, I can have a bit of a groove. So yeah, I hope, you know, I hope it continues to grow. And the other thing is to share time with people. You know, to share time. It's something I say sometimes before just some of the workouts. I'll be like, you know, if you're doing a different move from me, it doesn't matter. You know, ultimately it's about sharing some time first, sharing space. Yes, it might be virtual. Yes, it might not be with the live, but actually feeling a connection to something through yourself. I think that can open up a whole pathway of opportunity for people too.
Feel like you've achieved something though.
Yeah. You're right. Sense of achievement. You know, you know, finishing a walk. You know, if you walk to your letterbox, you know, if you set that as a goal, that's an achievement.
Yes, exactly.
And it's a really important thing for us to do that, because it's staying with that and you know, setting that can be a big part.
Yeah. Now, I'd love to ask is where to now? What's next for Aaron?
Yeah, where to for me now? Keep on sharing good stuff.
Love that.
You know, it's share good stuff. Share because, man, we are all in the same boat. We like to think we're in different boats, but if you scope out enough, we're all on the same rock. You know, we're on the same third rock from the sun. Our big, beautiful pink, you know, sorry, not pink, so that's Mars. a lovely, you know, blue pebble that we're on. We're all on the same boat. So share good stuff. Advocate for more people. Whether that be through movement, whether that be through mindset. I enjoy coaching. Separate from dance, I do a lot of the advocacy side of moves into how actually people think and feel about themselves, and perhaps facing whether it be trauma or different parts in life. That's where a huge passion of mine is, because I think if you can share there, people start to go, oh, what I thought was a deep, dark secret, what I thought was a shame, you know, all those side of things. That to me is a real passion of mine, to people realize that, you know, stuff can happen to you. It doesn't have to define you. It can actually add to you. So that's a big part of me. You know, continue to be ignored by my children. Not really. I'm good. It's just their age. I've become way less cool. Maybe that happened earlier, and I just was delusional into thinking. Maybe they're like, you were never cool. But do you know what I mean? Like, it's an interesting thing as a dad, seeing that your kids actually want to go on their own path. Yeah. Because there's this time of like, oh man. So yes, I'm at a space now where my kids, although absolutely still sort of need me, they're on their own journeys, and so that's freed time to want to share moments like with yourself. Love that, mate. And you know, I've enjoyed this, so maybe I'll talk more, or maybe not. Maybe you're going home. No, dude, slow down.
No, have you thought about starting a podcast?
I've played with the idea. I must be honest. Part of my motive, a little bit of my motivation, apart from sharing, was like, if I could do something like this. To see how it felt.
Well, I
Actually
think you should.
sharing a moment.
I genuinely think you should.
Oh, cheers.
There's a lot of little different aspects to your life that you could connect with many more people.
Yeah.
I honestly think you should give it a whirl.
Oh, cheers, mate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to reciprocate. You have to come and share your story with me.
That would be an absolute honour. I'd
You're
love to,
awesome.
mate.
I'm not sure if I can call it. I can maybe HT Heart.
Heart?
The art podcast. No, I won't do that. Don't do that. Unique. Be unique. Don't copy.
Heart. I think head over to Aaron's page and go drop him some messages of encouragement. Actually, no. Just go to his page and just absolutely spam the crap out of his page saying when's the podcast coming out. Because I think Aaron, art should be a thing.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, is it about painting? No, sorry, wrong one. Exactly. It's a dive in moment, eh? Because it's, and kudos to you too, mate, because it's at such a young age, sharing yourself is a unique thing, and I know there's part of it that it's you being you, which is also a beautiful, brave thing to do. But there's a norm. I almost don't want to use the word, but there's a normalcy that you're starting to spread, which is really good, because I think at the end of the day, although we want to stand out, we also want to fit in.
Exactly.
And sometimes that's described as, I just want to be normal. I just want to, me like that. I just want to feel normal.
Yes.
All these kind of things. And I think normalcy was just much bigger than we realised. Normal didn't have to be what was marketed to us.
Yes.
And people like yourself that at such a young age, because, man, at your age, I was still trying to keep a lot locked up. And to see that that's coming through at the generations now is something I admire to. You kind of go, that's cool, because there's a good 20 years between you and I. You start to think, man, in 20 years, what's that next 19 doing?
Yeah.
And then again, what's that next 19? You kind of go, man, that's a thing to be hopeful for, and that actually gives you can give you and should give you a sense of hope.
Exactly, mate. Now, what I love to do is, it can be Aaron time, it can be art time, it can be whatever.
I need a
love to do,
monocle.
mate. Yeah, yes, the Monopoly man.
Yeah.
Any words of wisdom? Anything that you want to put out there for yourself? Maybe a message you want to put out there for your kids? Anything you'd like to put out there to look back on in the future? You matter.
You matter purely because you exist. Your life has value purely because you exist. What you do above and beyond that should be exciting, because it's more than. Because, when we're growing from a place that we believe that we're not enough, can be a beautiful motivator, but is a hard place to fill. So, you matter. I think I'm just going to keep it simple.
I love that.
You matter.
Keep it simple, and they can interpret it how they want to.
Absolutely.
Well, that is a very beautiful and powerful message in itself.
Cheers, man.
And I'd like to say thank you very much for coming on the podcast. And I really appreciate our conversation. I really appreciate it. And
yeah, me too.
I can't wait to see where you go from. And I know you'll continue to help many people on your journey.
Cheers.
Now, as always, guys, I love to say is there's no silly questions in the world. Ask questions to better yourself.
Beautiful.
Head over to Aaron's page. Yeah. Check him out. Give him a follow. Amazing man on an amazing journey. And I want to say that I'm really glad that the universe allowed everything to play out for you.
Cheers,
all of the years of shying away, trying to fit in but stay mysterious has actually played out, and you've come out on top. So well done on your behalf, mate.
Cheers, mate.
I hope you're proud of yourself for that.
Thank you.
Amazing job.
Yeah, and vice versa.
Thank you, mate. Appreciate that.
Cheers.
As always, guys, I love you. There's always a line open. Until next week, do what makes you happy, do what you know is right, and do what you need to do for yourself. Stay classy. See you next week.
Beautiful.
Love is lost, but you found out. The truth be told, that's the truth, and that's not